that one, and we did a lot of them, and he respects them all. He understood.
In the world of politics, control is everything. Strategy, power, and image that are carefully curated and fiercely guarded. But even in the most calculated environments, there remains one wild card, one element no one can predict or fully prepare for: family. And within the Trump dynasty, that unpredictable force has a name: Barron. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. And hey, leave us a comment below to let us know what you think about the Trump family's future. Your voice matters. For years, Barron Trump was a shadow, quiet, distant, almost invisible. He appeared briefly in public, towering beside his father, yet offering nothing but silence. A ghost in the gilded palace. But behind those tightly closed doors of Mar-a-Lago, something was changing. Something profound. And on January 20th, 2025, before millions of stunned viewers in Washington, D.C., Barron stepped forward, not with words, but with presence. And in that unforgettable moment, Donald and Melania Trump could not hold back their tears. The Trump family is no stranger to spectacle, but this was something different. For the first time, cracks began to appear in the polished, impenetrable wall the family had built around their youngest son. What had happened to Barron? Even those closest to him were caught off guard. The once reclusive teen had emerged transformed, and he didn't have to say a single word. The world saw it, and they felt it. Once just the quiet boy in the background while his siblings stole the spotlight, Barron's transformation stunned even the most cynical observers. Yes, he had grown, now standing at an astonishing 6'9", towering over even his father. But it wasn't just his height. There was something in the way he stood, the way he carried himself. Confidence, presence, command. That day didn't just mark Donald Trump's return to power. It revealed something even more unexpected: the quiet arrival of his son. No longer a boy, but a young man claiming his place in the world. He had once shied away from cameras, deliberately avoiding the media frenzy that consumed his father. But on that day, his quiet strength brought two of the most unshakable figures in modern politics, Donald and Melania Trump, to tears. This wasn't just about growth or maturity. It was something deeper, something powerful. A silent declaration of identity, a moment that said, "I am here." How did the most protected, most hidden member of the Trump dynasty go from being invisible to commanding the gaze of the world? This isn't just the story of any teenager. This is the rise of a secret weapon, a force the world had forgotten, but may soon have to reckon with. Barron Trump, once overlooked, has become something no one expected. A symbol of change, of legacy, and possibly of the future. So who is Barron Trump, really? The youngest and most mysterious member of the Trump dynasty, Barron William Trump, was born on March 20th, 2006, in New York City. From the very beginning, his life was not just lived, but meticulously crafted. And the architect behind that carefully guarded upbringing? His mother, Melania Trump. A former model from Slovenia, Melania took on a new role with fierce devotion: protector, mentor, and soul guide to her only child. She made it her mission to shield Barron from the chaos, the flashing lights, and the political storms stirred up by his famous father. While Ivanka, Donald Jr., and Eric embraced the spotlight, giving interviews, launching business ventures, appearing at rallies, Barron lived in a separate universe, tucked away in his own private floor at Trump Tower. Melania didn't hire nannies. She didn't outsource parenting. Instead, she personally selected Barron's private tutors and teachers, ensuring every influence in his life was intentional and aligned with her values. Education for Barron was not just about academics. It was about diplomacy, etiquette, and rhetoric. And more than anything else, there was one unbreakable rule in their household: absolute privacy. During the 2016 presidential campaign, while the world scrutinized every Trump child, Barron remained a blank slate in the public eye. Rarely seen at events, his presence was like a whisper in a storm, and that was by design. While his older siblings were trained to engage, speak, and represent the family brand, Barron was trained to observe, listen, and grow in silence. A boy raised in the shadows, not by neglect, but by deep, intentional care. He didn't play by the same rules as his siblings, and that message was crystal clear. While Ivanka dazzled on the world stage and Don Jr. stirred up crowds with his speeches, Barron stayed firmly out of the spotlight. It wasn't because he couldn't handle attention. It was because he wasn't meant to, at least not yet. To Melania Trump, her son was not a pawn in the political chess game. He was the king she was quietly preparing. And the world? It may have overlooked him for years. But as Barron Trump grows into his own, the silence is beginning to speak louder than words. So while the Trump family was engulfed in political firestorms and headlines screamed with chaos, Melania built a fortress, not for herself but for her son. She stood between Barron and the insatiable hunger of the media. She shielded him from the relentless pressure of public life. And in doing so, she gave him a priceless gift, a childhood that wasn't consumed by politics, but protected from it. Barron, the youngest and most elusive Trump, chose a different path, a path that veered away from legacy, from fame, and from the crushing expectations that came with the family name. While his siblings leaned into the spotlight, he slipped quietly into the world of complex code, digital landscapes, and silent creation. Even as a child, Barron didn't dream of applause. He dreamed of architecture made of algorithms. Reports quietly surfaced that during his father's most recent campaign, Barron wasn't just watching, he was participating, and not in the way the world expected. Behind the scenes, away from the cameras, Barron was reportedly crafting digital strategies, designing algorithms, and fine-tuning hashtags to engage younger voters. It wasn't politics that moved him. It was the math behind persuasion, the system behind the system. His talents never sought a podium. They sought a purpose. He gravitated toward technology, design, and the rhythm of systems more than speeches or stages. Under Melania's quiet guidance, Barron also nurtured a surprising passion: music. More specifically, drums. Loud, unpredictable, primal. A far cry from the polished, calculated world of politics. But it fit him perfectly. Melania embraced the chaos that came with creativity. She didn't silence the noise. She let it echo. In a world obsessed with image, she let her son be real. How ironic, then, that the loudest instrument in the Trump household belonged to the quietest member. So what truly sets Barron apart from his older siblings? Was it the silence he cultivated so carefully? Or something deeper, a sense of destiny shaped not by headlines, but by intention? Did Melania's fierce protection and commitment to privacy quietly prepare him for something greater? Perhaps Barron Trump's silence wasn't accidental at all. Perhaps it was a strategy. And now it's beginning to change everything. For years, the world saw Barron Trump as shy, reserved, a boy carefully tucked away behind heavy curtains and guarded walls. He rarely spoke, never gave interviews, and seemed almost uninterested in the family business of politics. To many, he was the invisible Trump, a blank space in the dynasty's otherwise loud and crowded timeline. But the Barron of 2025 is something entirely different. He walks differently. He carries himself like someone who knows something others don't. No longer a boy hidden in the shadows, but a figure emerging with a quiet power that's impossible to ignore. To political observers, this was the clearest signal yet, that something was brewing. Because in politics, the loudest voice isn't always the most powerful. Often, it's the silence that shakes the ground. Barron had been silent for nearly 2 decades, but now he was showing the world what silence can become when it's intentional. He didn't speak, but his presence spoke volumes. He moved like a man with a plan. He stood like a leader. He watched like a strategist. And the question no one could shake was, what if this isn't the end of Barron's story, but the beginning? This transformation wasn't just about age or height. It wasn't just a teenager growing into his features. It felt like a calculated unveiling, a mysterious figure stepping intentionally into the light as a possible heir to something far greater than wealth, legacy. And that's when things became unsettling. No one truly knew his role, not his older siblings, whose spotlight now seemed dimmer in his towering presence. Not the media, who had spent over 15 years barely acknowledging him, and now found themselves scrambling to understand a story they had ignored. Barron gave them nothing. No interviews, no speeches, no quotes. Just presence, distance, control. Even after his father returned to the White House, Barron remained largely invisible. Many had assumed that the Trump family would move into the White House immediately after the 2016 election. But that never happened. Melania made a different choice. She stayed in New York with Barron, allowing him to finish the school year. But in hindsight, that move wasn't just maternal. It was strategic. The space Melania created between her son and Washington wasn't just physical, it was symbolic. It was a line drawn in the sand, a statement. My son is not your pawn. And even now, with all eyes on him, Barron Trump appears only in moments that are tightly managed and deeply intentional. His mystery remains intact, his silence remains his armor, and his story is just beginning. He mostly remains silent, hidden in the background. Yet even that was enough to attract attention. Just a single photo of Barron standing next to his father could spark a wave of speculation about his posture, his towering height, and his unreadable expressions. Every rare public appearance raised more questions than answers. Who is this quiet young man choosing silence while standing at the edge of immense power? Is it for protection, indifference, or some invisible force at play? The less the world knows about Barron, the more his absence from the spotlight becomes more intriguing than his actual presence. This lack of information has only fueled widespread curiosity. Online communities have formed dedicated to analyzing his habits, his posture, even his health. But as time passed, one thing became increasingly clear. Barron is not just a quiet teenager. He possesses unique interests that seem far removed from the political legacy of his family. While his older brothers dove headfirst into business ventures, Barron found comfort elsewhere, in music, in technology, and in sports. Ironically, the more he tried to disappear from the public eye, the more attention he attracted. And this is precisely where silence transformed into a quiet form of influence. Behind the reserved exterior, Barron was slowly building a different kind of power. Eventually, Barron made a choice that has surprised many. He enrolled at the Stern School of Business at New York University, not just for the name, but to chart his own path. Even more surprising, he opted to live alone in a private apartment in the city rather than stay in the dorms like most freshmen. It was a quiet, defiant step toward independence. In a rare interview with Fox News, Melania spoke candidly about her son's new life and her feelings as a mother. She expressed deep pride in Barron's decision and how well he had adapted to the rhythm of college life. Her words were simple, but they carried weight. She said, "I cannot say he's a soulless child. I raised Barron to be an independent individual, to make his own choices and live by them. That was his decision, and I respect it." But what did she mean by soulless? Was it a hidden jab at public perception? Or a quiet acknowledgement that Barron had grown beyond her reach? Could his sudden independence be a silent rebellion, a sign of distance growing within the family? Or merely the natural process of breaking free from his mother's watchful eyes after so many years? Was it merely an offhand comment, or a subtle message that something much deeper is stirring beneath the surface? A moment so powerful it brought tears to their eyes? Until now, Melania Trump had only shown raw emotion publicly once, after the shocking assassination attempt on her husband. In the wake of that horrifying moment at the campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, Melania gave her first public address. In front of the cameras, she broke down. She recalled seeing the bullet hit her husband and realizing in a flash that her life, and their son Barron's, might never be the same. She thanked supporters for mourning with them. It was a hauntingly vulnerable moment for the Trump family, still grieving the tragic loss of a close confidant who died shielding the former president. Now, with Donald Trump sworn in again as President of the United States, that dark chapter seems to have been closed. But on Inauguration Day, something unexpected happened. For the first time since that near-death moment, Melania showed another rare surge of emotion. Known for her elegance, calm, and icy composure, Melania doesn't often show her feelings, but something within her shifted in the most beautiful way on the day she watched her son Barron step into the global spotlight. He stood tall, calm, and dignified, the image of poise before the world. Of course, all eyes were on Donald Trump as he took the oath of office for a historic second term. But in just a few seconds, the narrative shifted. Standing beside the newly re-inaugurated president was his youngest son, Barron, stunning in a Navy suit. The shy little boy from 2017 who used to stand quietly in the background was gone. In his place was a composed, confident young man, one who didn't fade into the crowd but stood as if he belonged there. He owned the moment. For a split second, even Donald Trump seemed taken aback. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, mixed with the deep pride only a father can feel, as if he was silently asking, "When did you grow up?" The crowd chuckled warmly when Trump joked about Barron's towering height. But then, as the applause quieted, it was Barron's turn. Calmly, playfully, like a natural, he lifted his hand to one ear, inviting more cheers. It was a quiet yet powerful gesture, one that exploded across social media like fireworks on the 4th of July. The video went viral, reaching millions across the globe. Hundreds of thousands hailed Barron as the new symbol of silent strength, while others dubbed him the quiet prince of Trumpism. Was this the beginning of Barron's own story? Without a doubt. The world thought they knew Barron Trump, but this was someone entirely different. What touched people most wasn't the public reaction. It was a private moment, quietly captured. Melania was seen discreetly wiping away tears as Barron stood beside his father, radiating a commanding presence that silenced the entire room. For someone so young, it was a dazzling and unexpected glow. And for Melania, that single tear carried the weight of 1,000 emotions. The pride of a mother watching her only son, her baby boy, step into the spotlight, not merely as the son of a president, but as his own man, as Barron Trump. It symbolized every silent sacrifice she made behind the scenes to raise him, shield him, and prepare him for this very moment. Years of restraint, privacy, and self-control, all culminating in this instant. No amount of preparation could have braced her for it, and her reaction said everything. This wasn't just another ceremonial appearance for Melania Trump. The question now lingers. Will Barron continue into the spotlight? In his recent public appearances, Barron has been described as confident and articulate. Despite his rising fame, he has never spoken publicly. No interviews, no statements, no political comments. He has appeared in public only a few times, but always with a serious expression and an undeniable presence. And that's where the story begins to get truly fascinating. Some believe Barron's passion for technology is more than just a hobby, that he's actively working on software projects and is closely tied to tech incubators. Others have linked him to innovative projects that blend social storytelling, data analytics, and digital politics. But these are only speculations. Nothing has been officially confirmed or denied. In reality, Barron holds more potential power than his older siblings because he has no scandals, no past controversies, and no media baggage that could spark public backlash. Essentially, he is a blank slate. And in politics, that's a massive advantage. It means his image is untainted, adaptable, and can evolve with the times without carrying the weight of past mistakes. Yet, because his last name is Trump, one of the most polarizing names on the planet, tied to lawsuits, aggressive political tactics, and constant controversy, people can't help but judge him through that lens. Though Barron never asked for it, he carries the heavy legacy of a name that has become synonymous with conflict and sensational drama. That is the real challenge. Can he reinvent such a notorious brand? Some experts already call him the post-Trump Trump. Unlike his predecessors, Barron doesn't make grand promises, which may explain why the public has such high hopes for him. He presents himself as elusive, modern, and more strategic than divisive. Yet he doesn't seem to have the same drive or ambition as the rest of his family. When it comes to whether Barron actually seeks attention, sources close to the 19-year-old New York University student say he is entirely uninterested in politics. Barron doesn't care, one student told News Nation. He's nothing like his fiery and outspoken father. Barron Trump has always been described as calm, reserved, and highly private, traits he seems to have inherited from his mother, Melania, rather than his controversial father, Donald Trump. While Donald thrives on the spotlight, Barron has taken the opposite road, choosing silence over spectacle and calm over chaos. He doesn't try to be the center of attention at school either. According to sources close to the family, Barron stays focused on his studies and avoids unnecessary drama. Politics isn't really his thing, the insider revealed. He doesn't get involved. That's just not his style. Unlike his father, Barron prefers a quiet life, far away from public scrutiny. And there's something else that keeps him grounded: love. He has a wonderful girlfriend and spends a lot of time with her, the source shared. He does have friends, but unlike Donald, he stays far away from the cameras. So if you imagine Barron leading campus rallies at NYU, sporting a MAGA hat, or preparing speeches for conservative conferences like CPAC, think again. Even student political leaders on campus have confirmed Barron keeps his distance. His social life is refreshingly normal for someone with such a famous last name. As reported by the Daily Mail, most of Barron's interactions happen online after school hours. He prefers gaming and group chats to cocktail parties and media appearances. And truth be told, adjusting to life at NYU may have been more difficult for him than for most freshmen. Fame, after all, is a double-edged sword. But even though Barron avoids politics, politics doesn't always avoid him. When your last name is Trump, complete privacy becomes nearly impossible. Barron can't walk across campus without turning heads, and sometimes attracting whispers. That's the price of being born into one of the most talked about families in America. His older brother, Eric Trump, had a few words of caution. "My advice to Barron," Eric told The Independent, "is that he's probably the most watched, maybe even the most followed single young man in the world right now. So he needs to be careful. There are eyes on him everywhere." Even tech billionaire Elon Musk once spoke about Barron. Musk mentioned having a conversation with Barron about consciousness and video games, two things the teenage Trump is said to be deeply interested in. For a young man living in a political hurricane, gaming and philosophy may be the only safe spaces left. A social media influencer praised him as someone who can both run a business successfully and connect with people from all walks of life. Some students at New York University even noted a significant shift in the political landscape since his father, President Donald Trump, was re-elected. With his rising fame, is Barron beginning to reshape his own legacy? While he may be stepping away from the political spotlight, he is certainly not avoiding attention. And it's not just because of his famous last name. Standing at nearly 6'7", that certainly doesn't hurt. Until now, Barron has been shielded, either by his own choice or through the careful protection of his mother. But the world has taken notice, and this moment will not be forgotten. His story began in public view on the day his father was inaugurated, but where it goes from here is entirely up to him. He could choose to disappear again, dive deep into tech, and quietly become a global force behind the scenes. Or he might surprise everyone and enter politics himself. What's clear is that, for the first time, a branch of the Trump dynasty is breaking the mold. One that doesn't shout, doesn't push, and doesn't aggressively sell itself. In a world where everyone is desperate for attention, perhaps the most radical move is to reject it entirely. The question is now different. Will Barron Trump be the one to redefine power in the 21st century? Or are we witnessing a mirage crafted by media fascination, an image shaped by mystery and high expectations? This story is far from over. But one thing is certain. We cannot talk about the political future of the United States without mentioning Barron Trump. Not because of what he has said, but because of what he has not said. Do you think Barron is stepping into a public role? Or is he simply growing up? Could he be preparing for something bigger than politics? Is he the wild card no one saw coming? Whatever the answer may be, there's one truth we can't ignore. Barron's transformation is real and deeply emotional for his parents. Could this be the beginning of Barron's era, or the final chapter of the Trump dynasty? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click on the next one waiting for you on your homepage.